One.
Having prepared the chalice and paten in this way with the prosphora in their ranks, we will then also make individual prayers for those who are coming to serve the liturgy. In some cases you'll find that there are books of people's names that have been given, and you, and if you have lots of another person in the clergy, will be reading each of these names. But as you're doing so, there's also a tradition of individual prayer slips like this, where they write the names of the living and the departed. So we take one of those, and using the parts of the prosphora that have not been cut, there are two pieces left over at the end of the Proskomidie prayers, usually left on a plate like this. They're usually still loaves, these are just parts left over from the single one. And we will then say the prayers for all the people. We usually start with our patriarch and our metropolitan archbishop and all the clergy. We're just taking a small fragment of bread and placing it here. If you have a relatively small congregation, then in some traditions they will make a division between those who are living and departed. Those living will be placed on the north side of the paten, and then the departed separately. But if you have lots, then this becomes a large pile in the centre of the paten like this. So we say for each of the individuals that we're praying for of the living, and then we pick up a separate one and say similarly for the departed patriarchs, departed bishops and archbishops of our archdiocese, departed priests and clergy, and departed lay people, making a pile like this. This can continue right the way through to really the lifting up of the gifts in for the great entrance, but typically you want to try and make sure that people have given as many of these in up until the point of the little entrance with the gospel. After that I think it becomes too intrusive on the liturgy. As you come to lift up the gifts in order to process them for the great entrance, if there are any pieces here that are left over before you lift up the gifts, before they're incensed, and you lift them up for the procession, you can continue making the prayers and finish them off this point. If there's anyone you've forgotten, you'll do that just before the start of, before you lift them up and process them to the royal doors for the great entrance.